Hi, this is Jay, and I'm here to talk about do the third talk on BDSM and DS relationships. This time, our subject matter is going to leave the relationship itself, as in not just talk about the partners in it, but talk instead of one of the concepts of, important concept of consensuality. If you've done anything in BDSM before, you've heard the idea of safe, sane, and consensual. These are three sort of pillars that a lot of the stuff we do is based on. Consensuality is a very difficult subject to get around totally with because it sounds so simple. It means someone consents. Now, this is important to me for a number of reasons. Partly because in my relationship with my beloved, I could not do anything I would do to her. She is a masochist. I could not hurt her unless she truly wanted it, unless she truly could consent. I could not provide humiliation, degradation. I could not do much of what we consider BDSM if she did not truly want it and agree to it. This comes down to that idea of equality again. We are equal, but equal in needs. We're trying to both satisfy these needs. And for myself, I need to have consensuality. It's also important to me because I want my partner, my submissive, to really want to serve me. Now, let me go back into the idea of consensuality. What does it mean? Okay, the basic is you agree to a certain set of actions or some behaviors. Some people say you can give your way consent forever in a form of a contract, and some people say you can't. But my piece is, let's step back one step and understand what consensuality really means. When we say consensuality, it isn't just giving permission. That's easy. In the legal sense, there's more to it than that. For example, there's informed consent. There's also protection mechanisms in place so that minors can't consent to contracts and can't do things because they're minors. So there's this idea of informed consent and this idea of non-coerced consent. And both these are very important factors to me. First of all, non-coercion. What does that mean? That means I'm not forcing my submissives, my beloveds, submission to me at any level, which means I never want her to feel that if she does not provide these services to me, does not do what I want her to do, that I'm going to, let's say, kick her out of the house, that I got pressure on her that I can apply. I don't want that pressure. When she gives me the gift of her submission, it is a gift. I have done nothing to deserve it. She's providing it to me because she wants to. She wants to do it for me. In our relationship, because it's a relationship of love and of marriage, that comes out in every different way that she can in our lives together. But I don't want her to ever feel that she's going to lose something if she doesn't provide for me. So the coercion goes further than that, though. That also goes to the idea of trust and honesty. If, for example, your person submits to you, but you've lied completely through it, are they really not being coerced because you've set up this fantasy world that really doesn't exist? You're sort of binding their mind, if you will, forcing them by having them go down a rose path when it's really not one there. So honesty is important in here too. So we've got the honesty component, the trust component, which the submissive needs to have for the dominant and the dominant must have for the submissive. Because if we don't have trust, what in the world are we doing anyway? Do you really want to get tied down by somebody who you don't trust? Or on the flip side, do you really want to tie someone down and beat them, not knowing if they're going to go and call the police in 10 minutes from now? That's the idea of trust. Honesty and trust. But see, that's what I'm saying about consensuality. They're not really separate. Honesty, trust, consent, all play together. Now, the knowledgeable consent also plays into a factor here. Can someone truly give a consent if they don't talk? This is also this openness of relationship. You need to talk about those unanticipated expectations, those needs. You need to be open to discuss them freely and openly so that you still have this continual concept of consent. That's the important thing to me. My idea is continual consent that can always be taken away. That gives me the most freedom to do everything I do, because I know if I'm doing something my beloved really doesn't want to happen to her, she can stop it at any time. So when she gives her submission to me, I do have complete control. I don't have to worry about any of this stuff because I trust her to know when, A, it's too much. And that's an important aspect, especially if you have a relationship that goes beyond the bedroom with this BDSM stuff. So we've talked about the importance here of honesty, the trust, all of these things. It's all around consent. But consent also comes into the way of what's called safe words. Now, a safe word is usually considered a safety issue. The problem is that if you are in a scene, there is this concept of a subspace when a sub no longer could really respond to a safe word or any intelligible noise necessarily. So the safe word really isn't necessarily strictly a safety measure totally because it's not completely reliable. The dominant needs to be able to aware what's going on and make their decisions based on it. But why it is important goes beyond that to also the idea of consent. I now have given my submissive the ability to take away consent in the middle of a scene because something's wrong for them. That's also important. I want her to know that if I do something that's psychologically hurting her or physically hurting her in a way that isn't pleasurable, I want to know that. Because for me, the last thing I want is my submissive to be upset with me after the scene because of something that occurred within the scene unintentional. Now, if you're doing a punishment scene where that's part of it, okay, that's one thing. But if your relationship is much more than just sex, all these things are important to make sure it works. If you don't get all the factors, if you don't consider the consensuality of it all, you're basing relationships strictly on these roles of the DS side of things. And if there are expectations which are not fulfilled and people feel out of balance and stressed out, they're going to leave. They're going to leave, they're going to be unhappy, and they may not even be able to tell you why. So it is to the advantages of everybody to be honest, to be trusting, to talk, to have continual consensuality. Now, I'm not saying that the people who don't have continual consensuality are doing it wrong. There are people that believe that if you write a contract, they're giving up your freedom, you give it up forever. I know of a number of Gorian relationships that are based on the idea if the slave gives up their freedom, that's it, it's over. What works for you works for you. What works for me works for me. That's fine. In that relationship, everything's based on this model that's been built, and that's a great way to do it. Picking the right model is important. In my case, my model is one that there is continual consensuality. That's what gives me the most freedom. That's what matches my needs. I think that'll be it for right now. I think we covered everything I wanted to on consensuality. The next topic is going to be on, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a little bit about myself and ask some questions, or I'll find something else that we'll really want to talk about. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you next time.